right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Loan Officer Life podcast. Today I have Amy Mooney with me from the Copy Studio. She's an expert in content creation in the real estate market, so serving both lenders, loan officers, and realtors. So Amy, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into some of those questions?
Yeah, I mean, you wrapped it up in a nutshell, but I'm Amy. I own the Copy Studio, which is a boutique content marketing agency that specializes in real estate and mortgage specifically. Been around for almost 15 years. And prior to that, I was a real estate agent myself, which is what segued this whole creation of this business. So I have a little bit of professional experience as a real estate agent that kind of nosedived me into creating content.
So is that why you got into then just picking this industry, I guess, just because you lived it?
Yeah, I lived it. It's a very long story short, but I was the head of marketing for a small real estate team, and in designing our website and building out our blog way back in the 2010, 11, 12 era, I just really fell in love with the actual content marketing side of things far more than the hustle of actually selling a house. And I got offered by the company I bought our website from to actually turn around and create content for them. And thus the Copy Studio was born.
Nice. So your clients that you serve, are they the individual realtors and individual loan officers? Or is it the groups, the companies? Is it both?
It's both. At the start of my career, it was primarily individual real estate agents and brokers, and that has snowballed more into brokerages, what we would consider like real estate tech companies, prop tech companies, MarTech, all the techs, and a little less on the individual agents and brokers now, but more devising strategies at the brokerage level that then is disseminated down to their agents.
All right. So next question, I'm going to use one of your recent LinkedIn posts that I was reading. You wrote about how not all buyers and sellers are the same. Someone who's just starting the dream of home ownership versus somebody who's like needs to close within 30 days. Can you break that down for us of like what you meant by that, and then the different types of content that go into that?
Totally. So a home buyer can be many different types, right? There's the first time home buyer, there's the move up buyer, there's the move down buyer, consolidating from a family home maybe into a condo after years and years. Not all of those buyers or sellers have the same needs. Do they have the same kind of pain points, if you will? So how you talk to them is really important. They don't all just fall into one bucket. And that goes to really understanding your audience. And before you get out there and post your first piece of content, really understanding, what is the messaging, who is this for, and speaking directly to them versus just blanket content that you're trying to capture, all buyers, all sellers. That's not going to work. It's the personalized content that really drives.
Yeah. And so when you're talking with your clients, is it really just, is it where to start with picking a particular segment, or is it more like, what do you do in your business? Where do you want to focus on? What kind of clients do you want to deal with?
Yeah, I think there's both, right? There's the agents that kind of do a little bit of everything. And then there's the ones that are specializing in maybe first-time home buyers. And so it's really knowing like your audience and what you're trying to make them feel, how you're trying to express your expertise in that particular space. And then, of course, giving them the proof that you do in fact know what you're talking about. And here is a story of how it all worked out for this particular audience, right? And so really just, again, understanding your audience and creating content that is specific to them is going to be infinitely better than just blasting out generic, how to stage your home in 5 different ways. Like everybody's read that 100 times. What
Right.
value can you provide, to your audience that is a little bit different?
And we encourage our loan officer clients to use like personalized stories. I had a client, not naming names, of course, but I had a client do this. And so when you go back to the generic thing, we see some loan officers that say, oh, I got the best rates and best and good service. That's kind of
Right.
table stakes in this industry. Not everyone gets the lowest rates, but there's a lot more than just rate that goes into that. So from
Yeah.
an agent perspective, you mentioned like the house showing. What are some other examples of just generic, and where would you kind of recommend that they go?
Yeah. Well, I think your example is really good, right? The rate, like, A, do we really want to be talking about rates? And B, isn't everybody then maybe talking about rates? So like maybe there's a personal story in there. Maybe there's a client, not every transaction is about rate. Maybe there is a client that you had that was able to close in a specific time frame that worked for, let's say, a job that they were moving for, or there's a million examples, but giving the story of how you got a deal to fruition that maybe doesn't include rate, and what kind of, I mean, loan officers know like every transaction is so different, right? Like,
Mhm.
and where can we find that little nugget that, that the next guy didn't do? And how can we promote that to tell the story that maybe resonates with whoever's reading that piece of content?
Yeah. So I think you've already given some examples of like, I've been wanting to get into social media or content creation. Where do I start? Like, the general theme is get more personalized, tell stories using past experiences. What would you give advice to as someone new to the industry, whether they be a realtor or a loan officer?
Yeah, totally. Tell your story. Why are you doing this? Why did you get into this industry? What was the catalyst for that? How do you work differently than others? Um, even personable stories. I mean, if they're not too far off the reservation, like if they're not too far off base, like even personable stories are really great. When I was an agent myself, I had a really long career in Irish dancing, which is totally random,
That's
but yeah, totally
another
random, right?
podcast for that
Uh,
because that's very interesting.
well, yeah, totally random. But I was able to include some stuff like that in my LinkedIn profile way back in the day, and I, for real, had a client contact me and say, hey, we just moved here, we have Irish family, we love that you're involved in the Irish community, blah blah blah. And then next thing you know, that was a client. So you never really know what is going to resonate, and if you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of transactions and you don't have a lot of numbers and stats to hang your hat on, those personable things can be great. So I would say
Yeah.
try to be unique.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, not every, I mean, it goes back to your LinkedIn post, not every buyer is the same. And let's talk about those early journey, they're looking for something. So what's going to kind of catch them? What's going to make them relate to you? I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
just human nature.
Yeah, and there's other stuff too, like neighborhood level insights. I think we talked about that a little bit. That, what can you do to be the neighborhood expert? And if you're just starting in that neighborhood, is it local restaurants? Is it, different events that happen through the year? What can you do to show that you're involved in the community, that you know your community, that you can really help someone find home where they're looking to live, right? Another personal example, and that kind of falls in line here. When I was a real estate agent, blogging was just beginning, right? It was like the thing to do. And I put out a blog about the fireworks in our local community and the fireworks schedule for 4th of July. Even today in 2026, like 15 years later, that blog, which is now defunct and I couldn't find it if I tried, still gets hits on that one 4th of July schedule. So again, like, you just don't know. It doesn't have to be about the rate. It doesn't have to be about, the deal necessarily, but like what makes you unique, what makes you stand out. And especially if you're new and you don't have a lot of kind of like volume to stand on, those things are great.
So now we have ideas about the content creation. What tools do you use personally to generate content?
Yeah. Well, of course, in this day and age, everybody's going to say to use AI for
Yeah.
ideation. Even someone who, does content marketing for a living, ChatGPT and the likes are great for agents and loan officers to ideate around. Now, I'm not an advocate for having it write content for you, or, asking it to spit out social posts. Like, that's not going to help you stand out. That's going to make you look like a robot. But it's so great for ideation. So let's say that you talk to it and tell ChatGPT, this is everything that happened in my day today as a loan officer. Can you give me 5 storylines out of my day today? And that'll get your wheels turning, and that'll help you, get down some things that maybe you wouldn't have thought otherwise. So that's a great tool. And then, of course, I think pre-scheduling inside platforms is a really great way to just stay on top of your cadence. So whether you're in LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever it is, just pre-scheduling a little bit just to make sure that when you're busy and that deal comes and you don't have time to even think about LinkedIn, you've already got it squared away.
So for people that maybe not know the whole pre-scheduling, I think they can infer, but you're talking about, hey, I'm going to block out 2 hours today. I'm going to shoot several videos, content things, and
That's
just
it.
schedule them out for the next week, 2 weeks, whatever your cadence is.
That's it. And I think, start reasonable. So if you think that you can do one a week, great. If you think you can do two a week, great. It's more about consistency of messaging than it is, you know, 3 posts this week and none next week because you didn't know what to talk about. So like you said, if you block out, let's say 2 hours next week, you decide you're going to sit down and create all your March content, whatever that looks like for you, and you go ahead and pre-schedule that, done. You don't have to think about it again.
I would, and let me know if you agree with this, but I would give a tip to whoever's listening here is also make sure the time you block on a regular cadence is time that you less chance of getting interrupted. So like for me,
Oh my God.
later
Yeah.
afternoon, evening, I know I could sit down and do something like that. But the first 3 quarters of the day, there is a very good chance that I'm just going to get, a fire alarm or something else that goes off that you're
Yeah.
going to need to attend to.
Absolutely. I'm notorious for doing that on a Sunday. I know that's probably not the best tip, but Sunday for me is like time to deflate and just like nobody's bothering me in my inbox and it's nice and quiet and I can get some planning done. So, big advocate for the late Sunday night weekly planner.
So you touched on this a little bit, and we definitely highly promote this. We strongly believe that the best thing for the consumer is that local, knowledgeable loan officer that I think extends to the realtor as well. I guess number one, would you agree with that? And then two, for those people thinking about it, when we say zip code, it's not limiting it just to that zip code, but really kind of being an expert in your area. So what do you coach your clients on
Yeah,
in
a
that
million
respect?
percent. I mean, people want to buy houses and people want to do business with people that know the area. And not just from a consumer perspective, but from like a networking perspective and a like vendor perspective. As a loan officer, as a real estate agent, like you really need to know your network in your local area. And I think if you can show that to consumers, not only through like the simple stuff like we talked about earlier, the local events and the restaurants and the whatever, maybe through market data, maybe through a vendor that you used last week to get a deal done who, gave 5-star service, like things like this, where you can kind of promote your neighborhood, promote the people that are playing in your neighborhood, and build that sense of community. That makes you look like the expert that you are.
Do you see from that, so some of your successful clients that do that, do you see some organic or referral growth based on just like following engagement, maybe even deals coming out of it because someone's pulling, oh, hey, Amy, you tagged me in a post because so and so is doing something
Sure.
interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, even, for those that are just starting out in the industry, that's a great way to get like referral business, to get leads, is to really build that network that you have locally. And yeah, that's the whole strategy, right? Like the more that you can kind of share the love, for lack of a better, explanation, the more that you can do that within the community, the more that it's going to come back to you.
So let's talk a little bit about the platforms. I live on LinkedIn all day
Yeah.
because I'm more B2B. We're not going directly to the consumer. I have several clients that do both. They'll do LinkedIn and they do Instagram, Facebook. We both talked about TikTok earlier, but let's just stick on some of these social platforms that are more consumer centric. Consumer, I mean by just, you can see someone falling down, you can get a real estate article, you can, get the latest meme.
Sure.
What we find is that our loan officer clients that are getting a lot of engagement are more on those Instagram type of platforms. So how do you coach
Yeah.
your clients on using the different platforms?
Yeah, I think, it really depends on your personality and your comfort zone. more than anything, I recommend not biting off more than you can chew, and not biting off a platform that is just too much work for you. Like we were joking before about TikTok. Like if you don't want to be on TikTok, don't be on TikTok. Like just be on Instagram or be on Facebook, or if both of those are cringy to you, just be on LinkedIn. Like find a place that, you know, you can be consistent, that you can have good messaging. And LinkedIn, yes, is primarily a B2B kind of play, but just like we were saying earlier, like even referral traffic can come from LinkedIn if you're telling your story and you know what makes you unique, and what your experience is and all that. So I think don't bite off more than you can chew. Have a good cadence, pick a platform, pick your lane, and go for it. And don't do something that is out of the realm of comfort for you. You know, I will say, obviously, Instagram and Facebook are going to be better like B2C platforms. And especially the content we were talking about earlier, like neighborhood style content is going to live really well on those two platforms, where maybe not so much on LinkedIn. So consider the type of content that you want to create, consider your audience, and then maybe in your comfort zone, and then pick a platform from there.
And what's your thoughts on like someone newer doesn't have a big following? You know, you mentioned some good stuff about like doing some market data, so things
Mm-hmm.
that are, you know, a little more tangible in terms of content people are looking for when they're really doing their searching, making sure they're educated.
Yeah.
I actually just had a guy on last week, Dave, your mortgage guy, and he brought something up that I thought was really compelling. Is take that content and email your database. Email your database. Can help boost your following. You're giving the content.
Yeah.
You might get a couple unsubscribes. You'll get your feelings hurt. Oh well, but you know it's a way to
Such is
start.
life.
Yeah, such is life.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think especially someone who is new to putting out content and is maybe struggling for what they should put out and keeping up a cadence, don't just let a post live and die on one platform. You know, if you are comfortable on LinkedIn and that's going to be your lane and you post there, certainly send it to your email sphere. If you're posting on Facebook or Instagram, same thing. Send it out to your sphere, email it out. Maybe if you have a newsletter, or let's say your brokerage allows for you to insert some content. Heck, sometimes the brokerage doesn't even have the content and they're looking for someone to help them fill it in. So offer your content. And that's a great way for you to be seen and build your audience.
So let's say I came to you and said, "Hey, Amy, I'm already doing a lot of stuff on LinkedIn. You know, that's one type of following. I really want to get out there more, the B2C play.
Yeah.
What do I do? Instagram or do I do YouTube? Like, what would your response be to something like that?"
Yeah, I'm a written content girl. I know that's not always trendy, but I think written content stands the test of time. So would maybe not say YouTube, just because I think that's so much more labor intensive for a loan officer or for an agent to do. Whereas written content on LinkedIn, Facebook, even Instagram, set it, forget it, get it out there. One thing that we haven't necessarily talked so much about is just making sure you go back and engage with
Oh
any
yeah, that's a
comments
great
or things
point.
like
Yeah.
that, right? So when I'm saying set it and forget it, that is like the scheduling aspect of it, the ideation aspect of it. But you certainly need to go back and, you know, comment back. Thank you for the comment. Thank you for the thumbs up, and engage with other people. Again, this goes back to the neighborhood style content. Engage with other content creators in your neighborhood. Engage with the restaurants. If you're a loan officer, engage with the real estate agents. Like that's a great way to get yourself kind of in their sphere as well, especially if you don't have a big following.
So, since you've had, been a real estate agent and you work with a lot, what are
Retired.
some tips you could give to our loan officer clients that like what are going to provide value to agents to make them pay attention to some of these loan officers that they've maybe had no connection with before?
Yeah, I think it's really about, for the agent anyway, it's what loan officers can get the deal done, right?
Sure.
It's less warm and fuzzy like it would be to consumers. And with the agents, it's really all about like, how can you help me get my deal closed? And so really that is rate, timeline, qualifications, things like this that, they really need to know about. A great way to create content around that might put you in the purview of some real estate agents would be case studies or customer testimonials, or interview some other agents that you've done deals with and have them do a testimonial. Maybe that is a video testimonial. That's easy to do, right? So it's really about the proof points, I think, in that relationship, more so than kind of like the warm and fuzzy on the consumer side.
I love the content too, because you said you're more of a written content person, and
Yeah.
if you, correct me if I'm wrong, but you start sending these, even if it's agents that you just kind of a lukewarm relationship with, hey, you
Yes.
can use some of this content in your own marketing. I imagine that can kind of start building stuff up.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I think, back in the day, it would have been a flyer on, rate terms and timelines, et cetera, maybe a little review at the bottom, and you sent out this flyer to your sphere, right? That would have been a great way back in the day. Maybe today it is video content. Maybe you do a quick video testimonial from an agent and send that out to your sphere. I think it's really about, same as before, like, what is that little nugget that is going to make you stand out? And as a loan officer, like, what's in your bag of tricks that nobody else has? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, one good one from a same conversation was Dave was on, but Travis Newton from Synergy One was on, and this wasn't an overnight thing. They took it and it kind of evolved, but they were started doing a lot of their own posting. They were having fun with it and all of that. And their initial goal was to get to consumers, which directly to
Right.
consumers, which they did. But what started coming out of it is a lot of these agents in their area were going, "Oh, I love your content. I love your stuff." So
Yeah.
they started teaching classes on what they do and how they do it. And now they have a lot of great agent relationships with agents that they really want to work with, that they like to work with.
Yeah, totally. I love that. I think another thing that you touched on just there is being able to provide the agent with content. Like, everybody needs content, right? Like, in
Right.
some kind of way. And so, like, if the loan officer can, totally riffing here, but like, if the loan officer can make a PDF that is, 6 documents that you must have in order to get pre-qualified. That's super simple. You probably already have that PDF sitting in your desk 8 different kinds of ways. Brand it to you, let the agent put their face on it too, send it out, let the agent blast it out to their sphere. And now you have this like co-branded piece that, was, simple, stupid, right? Like, it's just the list that you literally hand out every day, probably 15 times a day. So creating content that can be like mutually shared across a sphere is amazing.
That's great. Great point. What would you say to a loan officer or a real estate agent that's been doing business for a while and said, I don't need to do this whole social media or content creation and getting out their game?
Yeah. Well, you might not need to, but you should. It's nice to have a presence. It's good for people to be able to find out who you are. That's really the driver here, right? It's like building your rapport, letting them kind of warm up before they ever initially call you. And even for someone who has a giant sphere, who has been in business for a really long time, being able to show who you are personally is going to help warm that lead, just the way it would a new person. So I would say maybe you don't need to, but you probably should.
I mean, it can only help, right?
I
Uh,
mean, it can't hurt.
yeah. So on that perspective, what would be the if you had to give them one piece of advice if they wanted to go, okay, Amy, you convinced me, I'm going to get started. What would be if you
Yeah,
only give one piece of advice, what would that be?
consistency.
Yeah. I hear
Yeah.
that a lot. I hear that a lot.
Yeah, it truly is it. The way that the algorithms on all the platforms are these days, like, you can post today and it might not get seen by half of your audience. So you need to be consistent. You need to have a good cadence. Even if that means only one time a week for you, that is fine. But at least you're building that kind of log of content, log of information that people can go back and reference to learn who you are and why they should work with you.
Well, I know we're a little bit over. I really appreciate the time.
Oh,
Anything else you want to say to the audience before we close out?
no, I just want to say thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to do this and for the invite.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate it. I think there's some valuable information here for folks. So thank you, Amy.
Appreciate it.